Hello, in Rwanda, Kazakhstan relations.
What if your child's first step into school was their very first step into the future? At Akon's International School, every classroom is a launchpad. Every child uniquely known. Every lesson a spark of discovery. Our world-class facilities, including the guided reading program, don't just build skills, they build confidence. From sports to science, from music to languages, your child is never boxed in. Clean spaces, happy faces, global minds rooted in care. Because at Akon's International School, wellness, discipline and joy go hand in hand. We offer Cambridge International program from early years to A levels. Choosing a school isn't just an academic decision. It's a decision about trust, care and possibility. Imagine more for your child. Choose us today. Because at Akon's International School, we inspire and empower. Welcome to Akon's International School, Kigali.
We have enough knowledge on the continent to be able to solve our problems. We just need to share.
Learners look up to teachers a lot, and whatever we tell them, it stays with them.
It's about freedom to make mistakes, freedom for the teacher not to always be the expert, but the teacher say, okay, what do you think of that?
A lot of these investments in education, you don't see the result right away. It takes time.
Mon système éducatif, c'est voir demain, c'est être généreux, c'est investir pour 15 ans, 20 ans, 25 ans. Et c'est d'élever l'éducation et refuser que l'éducation soit rangée dans des tiroirs sectoriels.
Your gateway to East Africa.
So somebody is saying to you, calm down, we will deal with it. You're like, but they've just killed 5 people from our own community. Yeah. Why should we calm down? It's a sign of weakness if we calm down. Let's go attack them as well.
People resort to violent means, thinking that is the only solution. But at what point can you remember that actually dialogue and negotiation was actually the only solution and actually the antidote to whatever you're trying to fix at that time?
The international community abandoned Rwanda in 1994, no doubt. And the signs were there. But the international community did nothing. And very often, the UN has to take that blame. The biggest offering we can give our young people is hope.
It's hope.
Because if you have hope, you don't want to get into criminality. You don't want to take the law into your hands. You know that it will come. It might take a little bit more, but it's going to come.
For the purposes of generations to come, what would you aspire for that chapter to read about you? Right. We want to hope that all is well with you from whatever part of the world you are watching us. This is a show that is called Engage, and of course right here on this particular platform we go beyond the headlines. We also actually go deeper and assess some of the ideas that we've had from the various guests that we bring right here on the program. If you're seeing me for the first time, if you're hearing this voice for the very first time, I want to say thank you very much for choosing EAMG TV. My name as always is Eugene and Nangwe. Thank you so much for being part of us, and of course we want to welcome you to start engaging us. All you can do is join us across our social media platforms at EAMG TV. You can also tweet me directly if you're using the Twitter or X platform at Eugene and Nangwe. The hashtag is EngageRW. Now today we are joined by a leader whose work sits at the intersection of peace, diplomacy, and development. My guest today is, I can say, the outgoing United Nations resident coordinator here in Rwanda, and he's been here for over a period that is allowing us people to get to listen to what he's been able to pick from this particular country. But we know that for more than 2 decades, he has worked across regions, helping countries to strengthen governance, prevent conflict, and of course, build systems that support sustainable development. And of course, we want to hear what his take is about this beautiful country, Rwanda, that he's moving out from. And of course, we'll also get to know what is his next assignment station. So let's engage Dr. Ozonnia Ojielo right here on Engage. Dr. Ozonnia, thank you so much for making time, and I want to appreciate you for creating the time to be with us here today. It must be a very busy moment. We've seen you, do the farewells, meetings, courtesy calls. I'm just keen to understand what's running on your mind right now, because these are some of those last moment rituals, for lack of a better word, while exiting office to move to another station. What was running on your mind right now?
Thank you very much, Eugene, for inviting me, and I think thanks to EMG TV for the excellent work you're doing. So it's a real pleasure to be here and to engage with the viewers. First, a feeling of satisfaction for the work we've done, but also a sense of incompleteness, because you always find things that you didn't finish, things you would have loved to continue doing. And particularly if you're working in Rwanda, there are many things. It's a fast-paced country, high ambitions. I look at all of those and I say to myself, international development is a relay race. Yeah. It doesn't, all the big issues that a country faces don't get finalized in one tour of duty. Yeah. You do your part, make sure it's substantive, and there's sufficient foundation for your successor to take over the baton. Yeah. So that's, how do I put it? Multiple mixed feelings. Mixed feelings. Success, but gaps that need to be achieved at the same time. But a little more, much more on the success side than anything else. Right.
Interesting. Yes. We'll be talking a bit more about that. But a lot of people know you as the diplomat. Yes. There's that title, Dr. Ozonnia, who's the UN resident coordinator. But before the titles, there's a person who actually grew and rose to those ranks. I want to understand, who is Dr. Ozonnia at the core? If someone was to introduce you, and I know they've introduced you many times at big stages, and sometimes you smile in your heart, and like, these people, there's just something they don't know about me. What is that we might not know about you, that you want to talk to us about?
I think at the core, I would say that I'm just a simple boy from Enugu, southeast Nigeria. Yeah. I've never dwelt on titles. Yeah. This is a simple boy that survived the Nigerian Biafran Civil War. Yeah. So I could have been one of the statistics of fatalities during that war. So having survived it, at the time, you have no idea what life will throw your way or that of your family. It means that success must never get to your head. Yeah. You celebrate achievements, no doubt, but you have to stay grounded, stay rooted as a person. So, and particularly if you get to play an important role as the person who leads the work of the United Nations in the country, it means you actually have to be the humblest guy around. A strong sense of humility should define and accompany the work you do. So, this is a simple boy from Enugu, Ozonnia. Yeah, simple boy from Enugu. I'm keen to understand their upbringing, because they say the family is super important, single most important unit of the society. And I'm keen to understand, if you can take us and allow us into your family, but also allow us way back into your growing up, the role of those who raised you. Are there specific stories that you've traveled life with that remind you of why you exist? There are so many. So maybe how many hours do we have? We have all the hours. Yes. For you. Yeah. No, thank you. My father served as a police officer. And when he retired from the police service, he became a president of a customary court in our hometown. And my mother retired as a school teacher. So in my family, education was everything.
Yeah.
If you wanted a present, like your shoes or sandals being worn or torn at the seams, you want a replacement, it's tied to your report card at the end of the term. So for my father, anything beyond first, second, third position in class, forget the present for that term or semester. You have to work towards the next semester. So myself and my siblings had to learn that we just had to work hard.
Yeah.
The only thing that he would listen to was when he sees your report card, and then you've done well. And there was this quotation he used to cite to us that, as kids, we got so fed up listening to it every end of term or beginning of term as you're going back to school. I have no idea what the origin is or where he picked up from, but he said it so repeatedly that if you ask any of my 6 siblings, they will cite the same quotation to you every single time. Because my father would say that the heights by which great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight. But they, while their companions slept, kept on toiling all night. Eugene, I heard this all of my life, even during my uni days, So education was a key defining moment in the family. And so myself and my siblings, we learned to be competitive, but to be the very best in what we do, and not, at least to excel in class. And I think it's led us far, because looking at the salary of a police officer and a school teacher, well, that was nothing.
Right.
But they toiled, they struggled, and they managed to see all their kids through universities. That was no small achievement.
I gave you an education.
Yeah.
And if you look back and compare, if you were to canvass and reflect what education meant that time and how serious your father took it and, made it something that was very fundamental in your growing up and in everything that you did. And then you look at who you ended up becoming. How best would you then?
You had to be an authority, on the subject and be, an academic. So I went and did a PhD in peace and conflict studies. But I think that served the purpose for my generation, for that era.
Yeah.
Because right now, what we see is that education is actually an enabler. So what you become is not because of what you read in the university. What you become based on your skills, your talents, your passion. Our fathers chose our careers. My father decided I was going to be a lawyer. My brother was going to be a doctor. My other brother was going to be an accountant. He pushed us in those directions. We became those professions. But here I am today, I'm not practicing law.
Yeah.
So clearly the purpose of education is to enable our children, our society, to generate critical thinking skills, not by rote. Critical thinking is important. Unfortunately, in many parts of Africa, people have ignored the importance of civics and civic education. Civic education taught you about responsible citizenship.
Yeah.
Taught you about participation. It taught you about intergroup relations, how people engage with each other. Because all of those define the quality of the society.
Yeah.
They define the intergroup, the interpersonal relations in a society. Now, when you don't teach that anymore, and you begin to promote a mercantilist approach to life, so it's almost like the competition is all you can acquire, me, 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 me.
Right.
The African society is not constructed on a me, me foundation.
Yeah.
The African society is constructed on the principle of the community. The individual prospers, but also the community prospers at the same time.
Absolutely.
Now we're ignoring the community and focusing on the individual. And I think a lot of it has to do with the kinds of education we're giving our kids when those foundations of civics are not there. The last point I want to make also is that the market, in terms of economic relations, is not defining the kinds of education we have. Some countries like Kenya, your home country, for example, they establish village polytechnics. So you cannot perform any services as a fitter, as a plumber, as a mason, as a carpenter, if you haven't gone to a village polytechnic. I used to joke with my friends in Nigeria, you take your car to what you call a panel beater, a body workshop. He looks at the car, he starts hitting it with metal, trying to flatten it. But the right person knows the ergonomics of the car and knows that there's some foundational literature they need to understand about how the symmetry aligns, and they begin to work on that. So it's not just hitting it with a hammer.
No.
So all of those demonstrate the quality of the profession, that it doesn't matter who you are, there's a standard. Even professions we consider to be low paying, there's a standard to those. And the market is also defined in all the kinds of education we should have today.
Yeah.
So many kids now are in computing, information management, technology-related fields. So they say that the jobs of the future, the education we are having today, is not preparing our children for the jobs of the future.
Yeah.
So all of the issues around civic leadership, responsible leadership, you can't buy what you haven't planned for, what you haven't laid the foundation for. If we're not laying the foundation at that basic level of primary and secondary school for children to learn civics, when are they going to acquire those attributes? Is it when they're in university or post-college? So I would really wish that education administrators around our continent are relooking at all of those issues and reconfiguring the education system to speak to the needs of our societies today.
And for that to happen, what 2 or 3 system shifts that must happen so that we can be able to have, education, an education that actually prepares young people for value-based leadership? What system changes must happen immediately?
Foundationally, the problem is structural. What is your ethos of governance in your society? Because your ethos of governance defines first the culture of politics. It defines the nature of intergroup relations. So if your intergroup relations in society recognizes the interdependency of communities and groups, you cascade that into your education system. Then on that basis, you can see value-based relationships, value-based citizenship. So it's not just about tinkering with the education curriculum. You begin by questioning yourself as a society. What is it we believe in? What are the things that unite us that we must preserve? How do we resolve differences in our societies? How do we engage in participation? What is the quality of our participation? It's not just the kinds of electoral democracy we see today. We say it's participation. That's not participation. Participation is in the quality. So it's relational. The relationship between the state and the society, relationship between groups and others in society, relations at the community level. There's a value, there's a principle. You can say it's your culture. What is the cultural foundation for that value relationships? Now, if you throw it aside, because you say you live in a democracy patterned after Western approaches, you are defining the nature of society that will emerge. You can't have value-based relationship. It's not constructed on open air. It's constructed on a basis. And that basis is the African social cosmogony, our way of life. Shapes and defines who we become, shapes and defines what our society is, but also the type of leadership and the type of citizenship we have. If you don't reconstruct it, we're going to be having these same problems we're having across the continent. And these are fundamental. I'm very passionate about these issues because these are fundamental to having peace and stability and security in Africa. And having the socio-economic transformation that we need in our countries.
Absolutely. And when you say this, even the peace that we so much desire is not just an issue in pockets of the continent. We are now living in a world that is full of conflicts. And if you look across the world today, we're talking about wars, we're talking about political polarization. Are we becoming worse at resolving conflicts as humanity? Because this is something we are thought to be good at, resolving conflicts. But are we becoming worse?
Good question. This is not an easy question to answer because there are many fundamental elements to that. Part of the fundamental elements, if you narrow it down to parts of Africa, because you're posing the question globally, and I think there are parts of the world that have developed their own cultural approaches to governing. You look at the Koreans, you look at the Japanese, look at the Chinese. Their systems reflect their socio-cultural lived experience. They've defined their political systems to be based on that. Africa is a different story, but who can come to Africa? But on the question that you have asked, whether we're fighting wars, we're not able to manage wars, we are. But, the state in Africa is in contestation. The state in Africa is in contestation because for a very long time, the state failed its peoples. And when the state fails, people react in many ways. Some get into fundamentalism in terms of religion. So your religious belief can be, 7 days in church, hoping for an utopia. And so it's like a mental migration, so you look for the hereafter. Others get into social groups and mobilize to provide social services for themselves that the state can no longer provide. Now, others subscribe to certain ideologies that historically question the type of state and the type of governance you have. So when you have Islamic extremism in the world today, it's as a result of the absence of the state in the lives of the people. And so these forms of solidarity developed that then helped people cope with the gaps in their lives. And then they started competing with the state for influence, for territory. So that's why it becomes difficult to manage, because people still don't trust the state and its institutions. So whether it's in how our security services are using extreme force in addressing something that is a sociological problem, or polarizing communities, and then how politicians are using this polarizing narrative, us and them, you know, for electoral purposes, and that carries into the body politics. So I would argue that actually these manifestations we see, they come in episodes. You remember that in the early 70s, you had all these red brigades and red armies in Europe. They were organized really terrorist movements in Europe. They really contest in Spain, the Basque region. A real contestation for the state. Those no longer exist. So this is a phase. It will come to pass. But what will make it pass is for us as Africans, governing and the governed, we need a new social compact. We need a new understanding. What does it mean to be Nigerian? What does it mean to be Kenyan or Senegalese or Sierra Leonean? What kind of state or society do we want to have? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. If you imagine your society 30 years from now, you begin to walk backwards to the present, then you ask yourself, are we doing the things that will lead us to that state we want in 30 years' time? So how should we reorganize, engage between each other? How should our institutions function to mediate difference? If people have no confidence in the institutions, they resort to group power. They resort to extralegal means. Now, if we have confidence in the institutions, we are confident that the institutions will give you justice, whether you're a person of means or not. So where we are in Africa today, we need new dialogics, fundamental dialogue to re-understand and reconceptualize. What we inherited from the colonialists has taken us so far. To go forward, we need to reconceptualize what it means for us to be, say, we are in a nation state, and how it should relate to us. So there's a question of, you know, the, what is the right word? The distrust between state and society is deep and polarizing in Africa today. And we can't just ignore it and think that elections will correct the problems. Elections will not. There's a legitimacy question in the state that we need to address. And so people should not lose hope and think that, oh, you know, we can't manage conflicts. It's much more fundamental, but we should keep an eye on the goal.
Eyes on the
goal. The goal is a transformed Africa, and what do we need to do to get to that goal at the national level, at the community level, and between countries?
Right. And when you say that, it reminds me also of some of the ways that, you know, some of these things are resolved, and one of those things is through dialogue.
Absolutely.
And in the work you've done, even in conflict resolution, I'm keen to understand that moment that you know, were handling a crisis or a conflict, and you realize that dialogue and mediation could change the course of conflict. Because a lot of times people resort to violent means, thinking that is the only solution. But at what point can you remember that actually dialogue and negotiation was actually the only solution and actually the antidote to whatever you're trying to fix at that time?
The problem is that when we see signs of conflict, sometimes we pretend that there's no problem. So in conflict language, you say that we wait until the smoke has come out. But before the smoke has come out, somebody's lighting a fire. Can you identify those trends, those signals before smoke starts coming out? Because the earliest effort to resolve is the best. Because at that point, parties may not have moved in protection of their positions or taking action that are negative, which might include violence. Because the moment violence kicks in, a mindset of revenge is what generates. So you want to retaliate. So somebody is saying to you, calm down, we will deal with it. And you're like, but they've just killed 5 people from our own community. Why should we calm down? It's a sign of weakness if we calm down. Let's go attack them as well. So the earliest resolution is the best. Problem is, our multilateral institutions or national institutions don't respond in that timely manner. And what we would like to encourage is a stronger effort at what we call national infrastructures for peace. Because these national infrastructures for peace are a complement to the work of the state in identifying those signals very early. Now, the other thing, of course, is that in trying to manage a conflict, if you don't get the parties to see that you understand what their interests are, then it's difficult to get them to shift. So parties take a position, and the position could be, we want that parcel of land. So that's a position. Now, what they want may actually not be that parcel of land, but they've taken the position they want the land. So if you are the third party institution or person trying to help them to solve it, you start asking probing open-ended questions to understand. Why do you want the land? Well, because we need it for agriculture. Or we need it as compensation for what has happened. Why do you need it for this? Why do you need it for... Then we call it peeling the onion. When you peel the onion, what you find is that the core is the real interest. The interest is not always about substantive matters like wanting land, wanting money. Interest sometimes could be psychological. Sometimes recognized as citizens of equal citizenship with the others. So the fact that you're bringing them to the table to sit with the other party is already a recognition of their agency for themselves. So we jump to try and resolve at the positional level without understanding what is animating, what is making them take those hard lines, those hard positions. So a good mediator tries to unpack all of that to understand, and it begins to, see that actually there are commonalities of interest. What you want is actually what they want. And then the next question is, really? Okay, how do we build trust? Not just in the process, but in after the process, a verification mechanism that shows that what you promised to do, each of you is going to do it. So the key is, when you get to that aha moment, when a party finds that their interest is actually different from the public positions they are championing, and they are willing to explore their interest much more, that's a signal that actually the mediation can work, that you can push. The key, of course, is it's going to be a very trusted mediator. Now you have people just throwing their weight around claiming to be mediators, and sometimes people know they can't offer a fair and honest process. You have to offer a fair and honest process that the parties can believe in.
Right. Quite interesting, and it takes me back to the day that you got the announcement that you've been appointed to be the UN resident coordinator to represent the UN Secretary General here in Rwanda. I'm keen to understand. I know we receive news in different ways. And we react to news in different ways. Take us back. I mean, what was the mood like? How did this news come? What did you feel? Is this something that you had eyed for some time and it was like, not by surprise? Or is it something that came by surprise for you?
Actually, I was in Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. As resident coordinator there as well. I was there from 2017 to 2022. So sometime in 2021, the position here was advertised, because our system has this excellent process where 1 year before you leave, they advertise the position. So your success is identified well ahead of time. And the agreement of the host government is obtained. So the person can arrive just as you leave. So the transition time is very small. So there were many other countries that were available, but I applied only to Rwanda. First is that when I was director for governance and peace building in Africa for UNDP, I was in Addis Ababa. This was from 2014 to 2017. I had visited Rwanda a few times. I had done some work with Rwandan institutions. And you could see the single-mindedness of purpose of the government. You could see the determination. You could see an effort to promote a different narrative from a narrative of victimhood, a narrative of hopelessness that people thought would be what would accompany the genocide against the Tutsi. So, as an African who is passionate about the transformation of the continent, there's no way you cannot subscribe to this kind of narrative. So for me, I'm like, I would love an opportunity to be part of this narrative and bring something that perhaps we could offer from a UN side to support that narrative. So it was a very welcome present, as it were. I think sometime in September of 2021, usually comes by letter. So the surprise element is gone because you open the letter, you read it, and you scream, you know, in your office, you jump up here, but then you have to calm down so, you know, people don't worry whether something is wrong with you, you know. Sometime in September 2021 when I got the letter, and I was very excited. And I began preparing. Now, towards the end of my tenure, the Deputy Secretary General, Madam Amina Mohammed, she came to Kyrgyzstan on visit. And the Prime Minister said to her they would like for Ozonnia to stay 1 more year in Kyrgyzstan. We had helped them develop a fantastic national development plan, as well as an accompanying UN plan, a 5-year plan by the UN. We call it, now it's called the Cooperation Framework, because that's the basis for the programming relationship between the UN and the host government. We had developed a solid plan in the UN in Kyrgyzstan, and the government was really excited about some of the ideas in that plan. And they thought, why don't you stay so we can see this through? At least stay 1 more year, get it going. And the deputy secretary said to them, you have to go and talk to President Kagame.
Because now
withholding his resident coordinator in Kyrgyzstan. And that she will not be the one to say that to President Kagame. So reluctantly, I had to leave. But they were very appreciative. When I was leaving, they gave me the highest national honor in the country, called the Dank, as an appreciation of the work. And so coming here was really, you know, full of excitement. I was so excited that I arrived 1 day after my predecessor left. So there was no time lag. He left on the 9th of July 2022. I flew in on the 10th of July 2022.
It's quite interesting. And I think maybe a lot of people have already asked you this, but I'm keen to understand in terms of culture shock. I know some of us have that excitement. We have some thoughts about the country. And then when we land, probably you find something that is quite different, or you discover some very new things that you didn't even think about. I know you've already mentioned what you had done and some piece of body of work that you've done within Rwanda. What else was such a culture shock for you when you came?
I'm not sure I will use the word culture shock. But perhaps I would say the things that inspired me upon arriving in Rwanda is the intentionality in the leadership. And I wish we would see that in most other African countries. Because every African country writes fantastic strategy documents. The problem is in the implementation. What I saw in Rwanda, what I continue to see in my 4 years here is intentionality. We're going to do this. There's a milestone, there's accountability, it gets done on time. So for a small country with such limited resources, no major natural resource that brings in big revenues, you can see the quality of progress is unbelievable. That's number one. Number two is that the focus on self-reliance. I think that's something many African countries should copy as well. That belief in ourselves, in what we're doing, and that belief in our historical purpose as a people and as a country. Rwanda wants to be upper middle income in 10 years. Right now, GDP is 1,020 plus, 1,200. But it recognizes that it needs to work a faster pace, much more radical effort to get there, and it's trying to do that. Even if it doesn't get there, it will go somewhere more than where it is right now. And a country that had suffered mass violence, it's very easy to stay rooted in the past and do the blame game as an excuse for inaction. But Rwandans came together and they agreed on 3 things. 1, Rwandans agreed to stay together. 2, they agreed to be ambitious. And 3, they agreed to, look very far in terms of what it is they want to do. Many African countries need to do that to see the kinds of results that their people deserve. A former prime minister told me a story of sometime in 1997. At that time, he was a DG at the Ministry of Finance, and they had a meeting with President Kagame. 1997, 3 years after the genocide against the Tutsi, there were hundreds of thousands of dead bodies in many parts. The memorial had not been built yet. Bodies were preserved in different ways. The infrastructure was poor. Many things needed to be done. And in 1997, President Kagame was telling them about transforming Rwanda into the MICE Center for East Africa. So you build the infrastructure, you build the hotels that would be the segue to a new Rwanda. In 1997, he said they had the meeting they had with President Kagame. He talked about Bugesera Airport in 1997.
Yeah.
About Rwanda as a logistics base for the region. Fast forward 32 years, all of those have been achieved.
Yes.
Bugesera Airport will likely be operationalized sometime next year. So that vision, that breadth of vision, at the height of when you think we are so disempowered, at the height of your sense of hopelessness, you are reaching far into the horizon and you are sketching out a vision for your people that seems outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, no, this can be done.
Yeah.
But it's that intentionality and that ambition and that single-mindedness of purpose that this is our inexorable march of history.
Yeah.
That's where we want to go to as a people.
Yeah.
If we have another 5 or 6 countries in Africa doing this, it will be a different continent.
To be a different continent.
Absolutely.
A different continent. And I'm keen to understand also, because at the end of the day, there needs to be also a bit of understanding of the role that you've served in for the last 4 years here in Rwanda, but also you've served in that capacity in different jurisdictions. Many people hear UN resident coordinator, and then they're like, okay, but we have a UN women representative who's there. We have UNDP. Yeah. So why do we have a UN resident coordinator? What is that role?
Yeah.
And maybe let's create a cheat sheet.
Okay.
For the next person who's ambitious to become a UN resident coordinator. What do you need to have? What values? What sort of preparation do you need to have for you to be able to qualify and be able to get this role? It could be me, yeah?
It could be you. Because actually right now, the reforms in the system are such that increasingly they're bringing a lot more people from outside the UN. So somebody like you, non-UN, can apply to be go through what we call a talent pipeline.
So what do I need?
Resident coordinator talent pipeline.
Yeah.
So, and then they assess your resume, and then there's a 3-year period of coaching and mentoring. Then you have to go through an assessment. It is the toughest leadership exam in the United Nations system. It lasts over a 3-day period. By the time they are done with you, they know you inside out. But you know, the pass rate has improved. Yeah. In my time, the pass rate in that assessment was 30%. Now it is 70%. Okay. So then you have, a roster of top quality, well-vetted people on standby in the UN system that can be sent to any country. But fundamentally, I say that there are 4 dimensions to my work as a resident coordinator. The first and most fundamental is a collective envisioning of the country's direction of travel and the UN's role in it. We have to envision. This is where Rwanda wants to go. What can the UN do to help Rwanda get there? That systemic envisioning of where, for us as a system, what is it we bring to the table?
Yeah.
How can we help accelerate this process? It has to be collective. Because every UN agency has a mandate. Some are narrow mandates, some are wider, like UNDPs. So that welding of multiple mandates has to come up with some sweet spot that is at that strategic level. That's where you envision. So that's number 1.
Yeah.
The number 2 for me then is that envisioning. How do I translate it into a strategic and collective offer by the UN system?
Yeah.
So when I talked about our cooperation framework, our 5-year plan, you take all of that visioning, you ground it in some specifics, some tangibles. When I go to the government of Rwanda, I say, we will work with you on this.
On this, yes.
As resident coordinator, hold me to account for everything the entire UN system in your country does on this. So that's the strategic offer. Now, historically, the strategic offer has often sometimes been like a salad. It's a mix of everything everybody does. But countries in Africa are in a hurry. There's no development template. There's no way you say you go and pluck something and say this is how it's done.
Yeah.
Every country context is different. So it's got to be experimentation. So what is the best advice, the best capability that we can put on the table for a country and say to them, this is how you transition from downstream to upstream systemic change. Because we used to do a lot of work downstream. We would go to villages, communities, there are lots of poor people, people would need, you solve their problem, you teach them skills from fishing to refuse disposal, All of those is important. But they're not the best fit for the work of the UN. We have NGOs that are very good at community level. We have local authorities by the government. We have community groups. The UN's best fit is at the upstream and strategic level. But what happens here, the communities downstream, is proof of concept, is prototyping. So we can support it to test new ideas to show that they can work. But how do we then work with government and other stakeholders systemically? Because that's where it cascades to millions of people. That's how real change happens. It's not in the hundreds, it's in the hundreds of thousands and millions. So the UN's best fit is at this upstream strategic level in terms of the advice. So that strategic and collective offer of the UN commits the entire organization to that upstream level. So if you're UNDP, UNICEF, UNIDO, UNHCR, what are you bringing to the table that leads there? My job is to make sure we put all of that together. The third is the normative role. The normative role, because in societies, people are gifted differently. Some can catch things, do very well for themselves. Others need a little more support. The UN has to keep advocating for inclusive development. How are we making sure that no one is excluded? Not because of their age, because of disability, or because of level of education. Even if it's level of education, are there steps we can take to bridge the gap for them so they can have the same opportunities for everybody else? When all of these are present, then there's something to coordinate. Because my job then is, okay, on the results, we have theme groups, we have results groups, they work at different levels, led by heads of agencies. How are we checking in and making sure we're getting those results? So I am accountable to the government for what we do, but each of my colleague heads of agencies is accountable to their respective sector ministers for what they bring to the table. But collectively, I speak on their behalf to the government. So that's the work of a resident coordinator.
Quite interesting.
Yes.
And it makes me wonder, when you were coming for duty, you said you arrived the moment this one was leaving, you just arrived at the same time. I'm quite certain that you must have had to-do list on your list of to-do when you're coming to Rwanda. I know it's a collaborative effort. Some of this you also add on to it once you land and you're able to see around. If you were to look back at that document of the last 4 years, what are you able to point back and say, you know what, I leave Rwanda with my head held up high because I feel like I achieved this and that, and on to the next one?
Actually, it's not a good idea to come with a to-do list. You should come with a to-learn list.
To learn.
Yes.
I love that.
So you arrive, open eyes, open ears, willing to learn and discover. So I begin by talking to all of my colleague heads of agencies, not just to them, to their staff as well. So I come, meet a head of agency, hear about their context, their issues, challenges, opportunities. Then I have a town hall with their staff also. Introduce myself and say, I'm here to learn. What are the things you think I should know? What are big issues? You do a lot of reading. You go talk to government officials across board. You visit parts of the country, speak to community leaders, local authorities. But so after my first 6 to 8 weeks, I then came to my country team and I laid out a vision statement. This is what I've learned. It doesn't make me an authority on the country, but this is what we're doing. This is what I think we're doing well. This is how we can accelerate them. This is what I think we need to keep behind, no more necessary. But these are areas, entry points, opportunities I think we should explore some more. Both internal, within the UN system, and external, with government and partners. I lay out this vision, we debate it, we discuss, they endorse. It becomes our matching others. So everything from how we work together, from accountability, how we keep each other informed, from how we tell our stories collectively, from how we build our capacity of our staff, from how we engage national authorities, the priorities of government, how we will line up behind them, all part of that visioning. So when I look back 4 years, there's a whole long list I can talk about. First of all, the National Development Plan, NST2, is radically different from NST1. Because the fundamental difference in NST2 is about coherence, it's about integration, it's about scale. You read the document, you read NST1, if Rwanda wants to be upper middle income in 10 years, you can't be doing siloed activities by ministries. So we started with the idea of flagships, which you see in NST2 now. Flagships are big ticket investments that have cascade effect Under NST1, every sector ministry you can build the road here, you can build the hospital. Now, where are the connections? So you take a flagship, the road is not an end in itself, just for transport. The road speaks to something. It leads to access to schooling, health facilities, retrieval of agricultural produce, access to markets, which means you have to talk to at least 7 or 8 ministries. So when you have an investment, where is the cascade effect? Because that's where you then have all that degree of impact. We've costed the NST2, we've developed an acceleration plan. How do you make it work? So a lot of our work is staying in the kitchen with government and designing the menu and cooking it. Because you're putting the intellectual firepower, the skills, capacities, and expertise of the UN system available. On education, on agriculture, on health. Eugene, my goodness, I can give you a list of several pages. But it's not about the UN, frankly. It's not about us or what we've achieved. It's about the government and the institutions and the people. What Rwanda has achieved. So I define our role as an accompanying role. I'm not going to take credit for anything government does, because in any case, we might have added some intellectual firepower, but the bulk of the firepower, intellectual and financial, is on government and the other partners. So it's not as if you did anything alone, but fundamentally, we play an accompanying role. We stand behind. We don't stand by the side, we don't stand in front. So that accompanying role means it gives assurance to government and state planners. The idea is new, is untested, you turn behind, there's UN, they will help me.
Okay.
You know.
That's quite powerful, but I'm keen to understand also, because the work that has been done by the UN through the support or through the work that you've been doing, like you just said, the list is quite long. But I want to take us back to a conversation we started with on the issue of conflict and lessons. You know, it goes without saying. Every time we look back, even at the history of this country, and we talk about the UN, you've mentioned something about the need to put out the fire before we wait for the smoke to be seen, then we act. If you look back over 30 years, you know, after the genocide against the Tutsis, do you feel there's been lessons learned, not just for Rwanda's case, but for the region, for the world, in how the UN handles conflict resolution and mitigating crisis?
You know, there are many issues in the question you've raised. Because the international community abandoned Rwanda in 1994, no doubt. And the signs were there. But the international community did nothing. And very often, the UN has to take that blame on behalf of the international community, because UN is a platform by which the international community comes together. And when people say, oh, the UN, you are ineffective, you can't do this, I said to them, how many divisions of troops does the UN have? How many police contingents does the UN have? None. The UN doesn't have an army. When you talk about peacekeeping operations, they are contributed by member states. And each peacekeeping operation, the contingent commander still takes orders from their headquarters. So the UN force commander might say, I need you to deploy to this sector because violence is threatened. And he says, let me talk to my capital. And if the capital says, don't go because we might lose our troops, there's something the force commander can do to force that contingent commander to move the troops. But the UN has to take the blame for the system because it's the international community that has failed. So everybody said after Rwanda, never again. It happened in Srebrenica. And now we've seen in different parts of the world today, that unarmed civilians are being subjected to terrible violence as a consequences of armed conflict. So you then continue to hope that if we talk about global solidarity, if we talk about human solidarity, talk about the principles of the UN Charter, the member states can commit. And in particular, in relation to the rules of engagement in theater conflicts, when a force commander says we need, you agree to deploy your police contingent, or your military contingent to a theater under the blue helmet, under the UN Charter, and violence is threatened, and you need to do preventive deployment, and you don't, then that's a problem. And you see it in many conflict contexts already, where even you have a peacekeeping mission, and The mission doesn't engage the combatants, even where it has what we call a Chapter 7 mandate. Chapter 7 mandate is if you guys are threatened, you are allowed to use force.
Force, yes.
So civilians are like, but how do we have a UN peacekeeping contingent and we're being attacked by people?
Absolutely.
And that contingent doesn't do anything, yeah? So it's problematic. But the problem is not the UN. The problem is member states.
Yeah.
It's in the Security Council. The Security Council is a legislative body for the world. That's where the decisions are made.
Yeah.
But as bureaucrats, we say that we are caretakers of the house. So the UN house here doesn't belong to me or my colleagues. We are caretakers. We are caretakers of the UN in Rwanda for the government and the people of Rwanda. Now, when we don't speak to their needs, they might say, oh, what value are you here if you don't speak to our needs?
Yeah.
So you would hope that particularly in armed conflict situations, the member state will step up to the commitments when we say never again, that it can happen.
Right.
But sadly, we just see
there is a cycle.
Yeah.
It keeps coming
unfortunately,
back.
yeah.
Yeah. But so therefore, I'm hearing a need for reforms.
Yes.
And you're also saying some of these things are happening, our hands are tied.
Absolutely.
We can't do much. So if you had the power to propose a reform that would happen tomorrow, today, within the United Nations space, but also within the international community, as you said, what would that reform be?
I will go at it like a surgeon with a knife. What might emerge might be, for many people, might not recognize it.
Yeah.
First of all, you have to take away the veto power at the Security Council. Because for a long time now, the Security Council seems unable to take a decision on major issues because the 5 powers, they were dominant in 1945, but are no longer dominant today.
Yeah.
By the size of the economy, there are many countries that are bigger than some of the members of the Security Council. So you have to do Security Council reform, either you expanded it or you're taking away the veto. Because when you take away the veto, then it can have real discussion and debate and can make a decision that is still binding on the rest of the international community. That's important. It's approved a resolution on funding AU peacekeeping missions, but so these are assessed contributions. Now, but the UN is still not able to fully support AU peacekeeping missions because even though they are assessed, it means they must come out of the regular budget.
Yeah.
But many member states are not paying their annual contribution to the budget, which was why a few months ago, the Secretary General raised the alarm that UN, the workings of the UN is imperiled by member states not paying. And there's this crazy rule there that you have up till from January to December to pay your contribution. But if by end of December, the UN doesn't spend the money, they have to return it to the member state. So you have a situation where some pay by middle of December. And by end December, give me back my money. You haven't spent it. Yeah. So the SG is asking, no, let's agree that you pay it, whether it's spent or not, because we can then make commitments in anticipation of the money we're going to receive.
Yeah.
Then you come to the development part. The Secretary General is very clear. We have to reform the World Bank and the IMF. Because cost of credit is too high for Africa.
Absolutely.
Compared to Asia or Europe. The international development architecture we have today was constructed for 1945.
Yeah.
It's not relevant for 2026. We have to unbundle that international development architecture and reconceptualize it and have a specific offer for Africa. This is a continent where we have plenty of land, we're importing food. Plenty of land and water, we don't have electricity. Yeah, we have natural resources and we're borrowing money. These are paradoxes, man. These paradoxes have got to be addressed.
You feel these systems were deliberately created like this to leave the continent?
They're not created to put Africa down. They were created for Europe, for the reconstruction of Europe, for the development of Europe. 51 member states signed the UN Charter and all of those, So, but Europe doesn't need it anymore. But they don't speak to the needs of Africa today. So you have to reconceptualize them. So your money you get is based on, your voice is based on your contributions to all of those institutions. And the legitimacy of the international development system today is Africa. This is where we are proving our raison d'etre, that we're supporting Africa in its transformation. So if we are the basis for your existence, and we don't have much voice, and you don't speak clearly to our needs, then there's a fundamental mismatch. So there are many reform issues, and the Secretary General is very clear on the reform of international architecture. You take credit rating agencies, for example, because the credit rating for your economy or your bank is the basis why investors may come or not come, why credit is very expensive. But conversely, on our own side, in Africa that the tax to GDP ratio in many African countries is less than 10%. it means the governments are not even collecting the taxes they deserve. Taxes you are owed, you can't collect from your citizens. You have to digitize your tax regimes. Because the more you collect those taxes, then the debate will then be how are you using them?
It, yes.
For development. So we can't collect our taxes, so we need to address them. The question of illicit financial flows, 50 to 80 billion leaves Africa every year. Mispricing, over-invoicing, all kinds of things by multinationals. You got to plug those gaps here using sophisticated tools now for, that allows you to see where the cheating takes place. Usually companies within a framework, what you call the arm's length rule. If you're within the same company conglomerate, you can, you give me an invoice that is very high, I pay you, meanwhile the value of the good is much less. So you have systems that can help you to track and to monitor that. So Africa doesn't need ODA. If we can close those loops, if we can use remittances as investable products, natural resources, we just, produce, we ship them away. Tell a company that wants to invest, add value, set up a plant here, manufacture them here. Add value
otherwise go away.
Otherwise you can go away and we will find our own investors. These are the questions of development, of peace and security that African countries should be asking. And being very clear-headed in terms of what they want to happen, If we can do that, it will be Africa's century.
Right. And the sad reality is that these all sound like a pipe dream. When they are actually within reach.
Absolutely.
And some of the reasons why I say that is because we are so fragmented as a continent. We want to, a lot of times, speak at individual levels and deal with the multilaterals at individual levels, and even those who want to take advantage of the continent at individual levels. And we've been speaking about issues of integration. And so how do you see the systems from an integration perspective supporting the continent to achieve this one voice, that we speak to the multilateral lending institutions and they listen to us. But for now, we are all going as individuals, and so it's easy, to be arm twisted. What must happen?
Many things. People should read the Carlos Lopez's book as AU Special Rep, negotiating the new partnership agreement with the EU. It tells you how sophisticated some of these international systems are. And how they try to subvert the idea of coming together. So your country has needs, and if they dangle a 1 billion partnership facility before you and your young people are protesting on your streets, you take the 1 billion, you sign the deal, because you have immediate needs. You're a politician with a 5-year mandate, you're in your 3rd year, and you're looking at re-election. So all of those create complications. And then somebody say, no, hold on, Eugene, this is Africa Union. Wait, let's come together. It will take us 3 years to come together. You might lose the next election. So short-termism is the biggest challenge. But let nobody deceive themselves that all of our friends outside Africa want the same things as we do. The mistake they make is that Africa's prosperity is not at the detriment of other regional prosperities. It's actually, everybody can win. So there's a logic that's pervading the discourse that unless you keep Africa in perpetuity as a supplier of raw materials and raw commodities, that your own country will suffer. That's not true. Because you can invest in Africa and repatriate your profits. So that logic needs to change. Now, because politicians are thinking short term, nobody's thinking long term. So AU is constrained. All the right instruments are there at the AU. What you need is a stronger sense of commitment from our political leadership. And then people should know that this is development. It's not instant coffee. You see how long it took the European Union to get to where they are, from the European coal community to where it is today, a European steel community. It's going to take some time. A number of countries outside Africa have been behind sabotaging the efforts at continental unity. Now you see the way some countries are reacting to some of those countries, saying we don't want you anywhere close, So the idea of monetary union, the idea of addressing trade and non-trade barriers, African continental free trade area, these are game changers. But many countries are afraid. You open up your borders, goods are coming from another country, but they're not manufactured in that country. They're imported from a third country. So these are the challenges that they have to deal with. The match is clear. Everybody sees it. There's actually improvement now in inter-African trade. The match is inexorable. What we now need to focus on is regional value chains, regional markets. What I can produce, my neighbor is producing it. Let's have an understanding. I ship mine to your neighbor, And sometimes actually you have a regional value chain where one product, the supplies come from different countries. It means you got to open the borders to trade and investment in the region, not just what happens within your country. So the idea is shared prosperity for peace.
Yeah.
What do we need to do to share the prosperity that gives us peace and stability, but also economic transformation in the continent? Whether it starts at the sub-regional level and cascades to the rest of Africa, or it's continental, doesn't matter. Start from where you find champions, where you have entry points. So we must never give up hope, Eugene. We have to remain, passionate and believing that it will happen, and contributing our own steps towards that journey.
Yeah. You speak about champions. You speak about hope. I know of a group of people in a population that are champions, and they're very hopeful. And these are the young people of this continent of Africa.
Yeah.
And the sad reality is that they still remain, shortchanged. When we talk about jobs, it's still an issue on the continent. Access to credit is still an issue across the continent. And yet we know that in the next few years, the young people of Africa will form the world's workforce.
Yeah.
And I'm keen to understand from where you sit, at what point is the system failing this very energetic population?
Unfortunately, the system is not responding sufficiently to some of their needs. Sometimes it is that policymakers do not fully understand the depth of the problem. And so there's a lot of tokenism. And you can establish some funds, but there's only too money in the funds. So you have a $200 million fund for innovation, or $300 million, but you have a youth population, 15, 20, 30 million.
Yeah.
Well, all of them brimming with ideas, so that goes nowhere. And we're not triangulating the various opportunities. There's a country in Asia that I used to cite as an example on the number of state funds and private funds in the hundreds. But the key is the triangulation. So when you have a good idea, you don't know where to go to. There's a state office. They will listen to you. They'll advise you on how you can take it forward. And they're like, hey, it's $500 or $1,000. So it's small money. Sometimes it's not big money. Sometimes it's actually belief in the possibility that you're putting forward. Does somebody think you're doing the right thing, or are you just wasting your time?
Yeah.
So to have a state institution saying, this looks interesting, keep working on it. Here is $500 to help you to buy the basic materials to test it.
Yeah.
And then there's another state fund to the next level. And when it's time for proofing, there's a private sector initiative for R&D that gives you a little bit of money to proofing. But when it's done time for market testing, the state crowds in private sector. So you got to have this multiplicity of funds. What we see in Africa is every bank here has a foundation, and they're all doing financing different things. There's no common thread.
Yeah.
So everybody is funding hackathons for something. There's no thread that links it. So if you create a thread, all of the things the banks are doing can actually then create a full value chain of ideas or pipeline from where young people can go. We do it at the country level, we do it at the regional level. So the good news is that a lot of our young people are striking out on their own and doing big things. Biggest area is creative sector. The only limitation to creative sector is your talent. It doesn't recognize geographies. It doesn't recognize population. You listen to the latest Rwandan musical version. It's unbelievable. It's on Spotify. So the state and private sector are the key. Now banks. All the banks are declaring windfall profits. And I've said it to the banks repeatedly in my time here. And we're working with a few of them now to offer the right product. The problem is that every bank wants to retain is A, double B rating. So the number of loans on their cash books can, negative loans can affect all of those. But why do you assume that the young people will not pay back?
Absolutely.
But the problem is because the loans don't have securitization. So the risk factor is higher. It means the cost of credit is also higher. So if we have instruments that create guarantees and blend the risks and spread them out. So the new language now in development discourse, even for us as development partners now, some of our money instead of giving them out to community groups, we are not giving it to the banks and saying that's a de-risk. So if you are going to give somebody a loan at 16%, give at 8 or 9%, and you can do first loss guarantee. So for the first 10, 20%, the bank can absorb, but the other 80% will guarantee it. So there are new conversations happening. What is missing is the scale. It has to be on such a wide scale, given the needs, that you begin to see the results to impact. So now we're talking about a few thousands. We need to be talking about tens of thousands of young people. And for countries with big population like Nigeria or Ethiopia or South Africa or Egypt or Algeria, we need to be talking about millions of young people in terms of the opportunities we are offering them. So the biggest, what I would say to policymakers and government is, the biggest offering we can give our young people is hope.
It's hope.
The hope that it will be different, the hope that someone is listening, the hope that change is happening. It might be small, but it's getting bigger. Because if you have hope, you don't want to get into criminality. You don't want to take the law into your hands. You know that it will come. It might take a little bit more, but it's going to come. So how are we offering hope to our young people? That's the fundamental currency. It's not in the money, because you may not have it. But if you're making efforts towards helping them realize their needs, people will be patient with their leaders.
Over and above the hope, I want to add one more thing.
Yes.
Radical trust.
True. Very true. Because if you don't trust that institutions will deliver, then the hope is meaningless.
Because also trust in the young people. Trust in the young people.
Trust in the young people. Trust in the young people. Trust in their agency. Trust in their creativity and their innovation. And every day you on social media, you turn the pages of newspapers, what's emerging from our young people is unbelievable.
And meeting them where they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the key. Meeting them where they are. They don't need to speak good English or good French. Talent doesn't care about language. So it's not about the quality of the English, how good the proposal they write. There should be facilities and institutions to listen to them, speak to them in that language, whether it's Kenya, Rwanda, or Hausa, or Swahili, speak to them in that Swahili and help them develop it. The English skills is meaningless. What you need is a talent to be able to prove yourself. So right now, like, oh, they can't write good proposals, so why fund them? There should be a mechanism to help them to develop their ideas and write what is in their brain, help them translate it in written form, that someone can approve that application and say, go for it. You know, we're standing behind you.
Right. I'm sure someone is listening to you and is like, but I've had a lot of good things about the UN system in terms of work, from a work-related perspective, but they always feel like it's so difficult to be able to find your way into the UN system for work. If there's a young person watching you right now, and that has been their ambition, every time there's a vacancy announced, they're always camping at that particular website, just looking, and they've tried constantly, but they're now giving up. They're almost giving up. What would you tell that young person?
They should not give up. They should not give up. Obviously, you have a constraint in terms of numbers. There's only so many people you can employ. Very often you employ when you have a vacancy. If you don't have a vacancy, you don't employ. And even when you want to take interns, you have to have a space where they can even sit. You have to have a desk. You have to have a computer you're going to give to them. All of that has X cost elements. So you don't have the space, you don't have the money for that. You want an intern, you don't take them. So, which means that the number of jobs available relative to the number of applicants, total mismatch. But they must never give up hope, because you believe in wanting to be a social entrepreneur, which is what anybody who works for the UN is, then it can happen. They can prepare themselves. They prepare themselves, for example, volunteering with an NGO. So if I'm sitting in an interview panel, and I have two people before me, and one has done some work with an NGO, so understands development issues, has a master's degree, or even a bachelor's degree, but has a lot of experience in NGO. The other person has a master's degree, straight from school, had no experience. I'm going to take the one who volunteered in the NGO, because they understand. They understand the language. So everything we do to invest in ourselves is preparation. And no knowledge is wasted. No preparation is wasted. Each of those elements count to something. I know that very often people say, unless you know someone in the UN, you can't get it a job. I say that's not true. Every organization have instances like that. Myself, I'm living proof that when I got into the UN, it was actually for a job meant for somebody else, and I beat the person at the interview. and I was hired and I didn't know anyone. So I use that as an example, but it also has inspired me that in my recruitment, when I want the very best. If you're a good manager, you should want the very best. Because you don't want someone, because the person is referenced by somebody you know, who comes and then somebody has to carry the can for that other person. You want the person you give minimal guidance, minimal instruction, they hit the ground, they are running. So you shoot yourself in the foot when you take the unqualified. But every organization has its own challenges. So young people say that to me, and I said to them, it might exist, but that should be no hindrance. If you are well qualified, you prove yourself at the interview panel, the job could be yours. You know. So let them not lose hope. Let them believe in the purposes of the UN. Let them believe in what they can offer when they come into the UN system. But let them help themselves by equipping themselves by some volunteer experience in the community, with an NGO. Of course, you know, you need a job and somebody's telling you to go and volunteer where you're not being paid. How do I do it? I know. I know. Do what is possible. Don't go and incur costs you can't afford just because you want to get into the UN. Just do what is possible, but do believe in yourself. Also, there are lots of NGOs that are hiring. So that also is like a preparation ground. You know, so when you go and work for an NGO, and there are many websites, you know, developmentaid.org is a powerful website. It collects all the development vacancies from around the world. It puts them. So I encourage young people, go to developmentaid.org, go check. You know, you see a job, apply. Because when you're already working in the development sector with an NGO, local NGO, international NGO, you are preparing yourself for that UN career.
Absolutely.
But the main currency, don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't lose hope.
Right. We're almost getting to the tail end of this conversation. It's very brilliant. And in fact, when I asked you for one reform, you gave me a list of many. When I asked you for ideas of what, you know, can be done to, you know, meet young people where they are, you had a lot of ideas. And I'm seated here wondering if we should do what, you know, the previous place where you were before you came here, if we should tell the next station to allow you to stay for one more year.
Well,
I should speak to who?
The luck that I have is that I went to President Kagame and did my farewell visit yesterday. Yeah. And his first question, but why are you leaving?
Absolutely.
We're happy with you here. Why are you leaving? So, and I tried to answer as honestly as I could.
So what did you say?
I got his blessing.
I
got his blessing. He recognizes that as an international development person, we are available to our countries for a period of time. And the idea is you take some of those knowledge and skills and lessons you've learned from the country of assignment to the next country. So we had a fantastic chat. He was very generous with his recognition and his praise. Offered me that, you know, this is your home. You can always come back. We'll be happy to take you back any moment. If you want to come home, live here, settle, work, you're welcome anytime. So in a sense, for me, that's a blessing from the president saying, go forth, and go represent us well. That's the way I took it here. Go take all the ideas that he and many others are sharing about how Africa could transform. Take those ideas to where you are going. And I'm very delighted I'm going to a country that has a similar view about self-reliance, about socio-economic transformation, knowing it has significant constraints also on humanitarian issues, but wanting to address all of them at the same time. So I'm going to Ethiopia as a resident and humanitarian coordinator as well, at the rank of Assistant Secretary General. So I'm very happy for that elevation by the Secretary General. And I'm looking forward to strengthening Ethiopia-Rwanda relations and experience sharing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hope to see you in Ethiopia very soon.
Yes.
And so if you look back then, are there any, you know, in your role here, are there any decisions that you look back and you feel that was not a good decision I made? Are there any regrets? Are there any parts where
none whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
None, because I think Rwanda is actually a preparation ground. You work here, you see the intentionality, you see the commitment, you see the desire. There are many things you learn. And then on the decision point, my role is actually not to be, I'm not the decider. That's not how I see my role. My role is the inspirer in chief for the UN system. My role is to work with my colleagues to dream big dreams and believing in our dreams and in our visions. So I'm more the inspirer in chief, the cheerleader. And when you inspire, you put your team forward. You stay behind. Remember, I'm a simple boy from Enugu. It's not about you. It's not about taking credit. It's about letting the team get the work done and being confident that sometimes you are not seen. Because if you believe in the power of your ideas, you believe in the value of the United Nations system, then why do you care whether you're in front or not? You will empower everybody else. Let people stay in front. Because ultimately, collectively, you take part of the credit. So as inspirer-in-chief is to say to them, it can be done.
It can be done.
So I have a favorite quote that colleagues keep reminding me of, because I keep saying to my team and my colleagues that we are only limited by the degree of our ambition. Everything is possible. It's how ambitious are you? How hungry are you for this kind of result? And I think when you work in a country like Rwanda, that is also only limited by the degree of Rwanda's ambition. So you meet the government, you meet the people of Rwanda where they are. The ambition is here. Yours for the UN is here. We meet each other on that point. So we push the direction. So in that sense, if I've made decisions, it's been more like to be very definitive about the direction of travel. But I've made them because my colleagues believe in the same vision. We iterated it together, we agreed on that vision, and we said that's where we're going. And then to hold the fort, no backsliding, and define the accountability mechanisms, How do we know we've got there? Be very intentional in pushing it. Taking the entire UN system on visits around the country. We go to parts of the country every quarter. We spend the night there. Doesn't matter the quality of the accommodation. We engage the local authorities, district authorities, community members, victims groups. We explain the UN to them. We inspect projects. And then the next morning we reflect on what we've heard. So it's connected us to Rwanda, not just Kigali. To the rest of the country, to appreciate the challenge of the country. But it's inspired us in terms of what is it we are doing to support the government to address the needs of these people. And it's helped bring the entire UN system together. It doesn't matter the agency you are working in, UNDP, UNICEF, WF, it's one UN. The local person in the street doesn't understand these labels. What they know is that the UN is present, is helping us. Are you helping the dairy sector on milk, hydroponic agriculture, quality of education, school feeding, milk for children, wash facilities in schools and hospitals, with telehealth, facilities in remote hospital zones so that people can access nurse practitioners, all kinds of things, all kinds of things that make us feel proud that we're walking Rwanda's journey together with Rwanda. So for me, it's a huge sense of fulfillment. And I can't, my gratitude goes to President Kagame, but to all the key ministers. It doesn't matter which minister has come and gone. The commitment, the relationship has been the same. DGs, mayors, community groups. So I keep saying, you serve in Rwanda. A part of it stays with you permanently for the rest of your lives. And in any case, I got a Rwandan name as well, Mwali.
Mwali?
Yes, that's my Rwandan name. So if people call you Mwali, which means hero, my goodness, you have to keep coming back, So I'm never leaving permanently. So I said, the president, I'm not leaving permanently.
No, you're not.
My name is Mwali. It means I always come back. Yes.
Welcome back.
Yes.
I think it's in Nwari.
Mwali, yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And so if the chapter, let's talk about legacy now as we close. If there was a chapter, written about your legacy, I know you've spoken about it's not about you, but from a tour of service, and also for the purposes of generations to come, what would you aspire for that chapter to read about you?
The simple boy who came and became one of us.
Right. What a good way to end this conversation.
Thank you, my dear brother.
Simple boy from Enugu.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we can't wait to see you, in Ethiopia. And of course, you always have a space back here in Rwanda, and particularly here at EAMG TV. I'm sure we'll still be able to connect with you even virtually if we can.
Yes, indeed.
And I want to say thank you for joining us and for sharing your insights and allowing us into your life in the ways that you have done that, because we believe your journey is reminding us that sustainable development is actually not only about policies or programs. It's about building institutions, strengthening dialogues, and creating systems that protect dignity, offers opportunity for every community, particularly the marginalized and also the young people. And so thank you once again.
With pleasure.
Asante. For you who's been watching, we want to say thank you. We extend our gratitude to you for allowing us into your living rooms, in your cars, whatever part of this world you're watching us. It could be in your offices. We say thank you very much. And of course, We would like to request you, if you've enjoyed this conversation and you'd like to see more of this, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us across our digital platforms. It's at EAMG TV, and also visit our website www.eamgtv.com, and you'll be able to find more from where this came from. We'll see you again, same time, same place. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now. Thank you.
Your gateway to East Africa. What if your child's first step into school was their very first step into the future? At Akons International School, every classroom is a launchpad. Every child uniquely known. Every lesson a spark of discovery. Our world-class facilities, including the guided reading program, don't just build skills, they build confidence. From sports to science, from music to languages, your child is never boxed in. Clean spaces, happy faces, global minds rooted in care. Because at Akons International School, wellness, discipline, and joy go hand in hand. We offer Cambridge International program from early years to A levels. Choosing a school isn't just an academic decision. It's a decision about trust, care, and possibility. Imagine more for your child. Choose us today. Because at Akons International School, we inspire and empower. Welcome to Akons International School, Kigali.
We have enough knowledge on the continent to be able to solve our problems. We just need to share.
Learners look up to teachers a lot, and whatever we tell them, it stays with them.
It's about freedom to make mistakes, freedom for the teacher not to always be the expert, but the teacher say, okay, what do you think of that?
A lot of these investments in education, you don't see the result right away. It takes time.
Bon système éducatif, c'est voir demain, c'est être généreux, c'est investir pour 15 ans, 20 ans, 25 ans. Et c'est d'élever l'éducation et refuser que l'éducation soit rangée dans des tiroirs sectoriels.